So our next topic is really a roundup of AMD, Nvidia, and Intel in 2021 so far.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think I got to start with Intel. You know what I mean? Like, and
Mm.
I mean, my opinion, and I think a lot of other tech tubers, tech press, is that Intel for as huge and as important as they are literally on the back foot.
Mm.
Sleeping giant, they've been pedestrian for too long. They're on the
Yeah.
back foot.
Yeah. 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 And even the early reviews of the new chips haven't been great from what I can tell.
Intel have come out with quite a bit of news, so it feels like they've been, really provoked into some sort of film action finally. They've broken out of whatever medically induced coma they were in.
Mm.
They've smelt the danger, and we've seen a lot of activity the last month from them. So what have we seen? We've seen Rocket Lake,
Yep. Yep.
yeah. So that's their new range of CPUs. We've got leaks or information, I should say leaks and information about their Alder Lake architecture, which I believe is coming, the CPU architecture, I should say, which is coming out close to the end of the year. I think Q4
Mhm.
2021.
Mhm.
There have also been leaks, I believe, on the Intel Z range of graphics,
Mm.
their discrete graphics
Yeah.
offering.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think DG2, I think DG1
Yeah.
already is available in some Tiger Lake laptops.
Mhm. Mhm.
For something like that, it's a low
Yeah.
a low powered component. Really, just competes with Nvidia MX
Yeah.
range of kind of like GPUs.
Yeah. And actually, they've done quite well. If you remember back to the Steam stats, I think Intel, UHD kind of in onboard graphics cards are part of that list. I'm going to bring up the stats whilst we continue through it, but I'll dig out what percentage they were. But I remember it being quite high.
So Rocket Lake is available March 30th. That's my
Hmm.
information. It's a 14 nm FinFET node, so obviously it's not 10 nm.
Hmm.
A new chip, I believe it's a new chipset and it's a new socket.
Hmm.
Actually, no. When I say new socket, it's still on the LGA 1200, which is the last socket.
Hmm. Hmm.
Supports DDR4 up
Hmm.
to 3200 megahertz. Finally introduces PCI 4.
Hmm.
And basically, core-wise, we're talking about a maximum of 8 cores, 16 threads. And what they've done is basically backported this thing called Cypress Cove that was designed, I think, for 10 nm,
Hmm.
and they've backported that to 14 nm.
Hmm. Hmm.
Performance-wise, max boost 5.2 gigahertz and a
Yeah.
claimed 19% IPC gain versus what I don't know. Yeah, that's the other thing. Versus what?
Yeah, that's their marketing number.
Yeah, but it's not insignificant. Not insignificant.
Yeah.
It actually has a new integrated Z GPU,
Yeah.
on board. So,
I mean
that's not bad.
yeah, integrated and onboard graphics and APUs now are, they're getting really, really good. And as I was saying earlier, that this Intel UHD graphics is on Steam's February stats at 1%, right next to the Radeon 5700 XT. So about number 16 to 20-ish in that range. So it's quite popular. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it'll be
yeah.
one of these things that users will have, users don't will really forget about, if you know what I mean. It's just there,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow my PC's running games. I don't know how it's doing it, how the graphics are, being
Yeah.
rendered, but there it is.
It runs smooth enough. It manages to just run this game. Yeah, it
Yeah,
works.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But on Rocket Lake, what I understand so far is the reception's been a bit lukewarm.
Mm.
I think there was this early, and I think it was on the Alan Tech website
Hmm.
review. I mean, weirdly, someone managed to basically buy the chip before the
Oh, yeah, that's right. They were being shipped around, weren't they? And
yeah,
people
yeah,
were able to get their hands on it. Yeah.
yeah. They reviewed it, and the actual results were very lukewarm.
Yeah.
I mean, it
And
was at
kind of not
best,
surprising.
yeah,
Yeah.
at best, and I'm being generous here. It was the equal of Zen 3, and in many cases just being outperformed by it.
And that's the thing. I think this is the 10 nanometer, 7 nanometer problem, right? And now AMD has
Well, this thing's
performed the
not even
yeah,
10
yeah.
nanometer, Al. It's actually
Oh,
on
is it
their
not?
aged 14 nanometer. But they basically took a core design they had originally intended for 10nm and backported it onto
Right.
14nm.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's kind of like, not a good. Well, I don't know about not a good look. I mean, I think Intel have to do something.
Yeah, but that's what I mean is that they've been behind on their sort of stuff, and even whatever new stuff that they were releasing, because AMD is progressing at such a pace and improving even just efficiency on on their existing chips, you are going to eventually, fall behind completely. Now, whether enthusiasts, people that do some research, will know based on obviously YouTube videos and other things to not go for an Intel chip after a certain point. But there'll still be mass market people that that will have no clue and will just be continuing to purchase Intel because that's the thing that they've known
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
brand.
It's mind share, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Hmm.
But I mean, I don't know what to say about Rocket Lake really, other than yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that it doesn't seem to do more.
I'm not surprised
Yeah,
though.
but that's the
This
thing
is the
is, I'm
thing.
not surprised either. I'm actually not surprised. I'm not surprised it is what it is. I mean, at least they got PCIe 4 there. I
Hmm.
mean, couldn't have gone another generation of chips without it, surely. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But the interesting thing with PCIe 4 is that even graphics cards, I think many of the sort of tech outlets have already kind of reviewed it and said you don't really need PCIe 4. If anything, you're probably taking advantage of it for your SSD cards.
Yeah, it's all storage. The main benefit of PCIe 4 now is storage.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really need it for graphics because obviously the GPUs aren't really saturating it.
Yep. Yep.
But who knows? Maybe if one day this pipe dream of 8K becomes real, that it might have a chance of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, Rocket Lake. So
Mm.
lukewarm. Plus, it only goes up to 8 cores.
Yeah.
I guess again a side effect of
Yeah.
being on 14nm.
Yeah.
But I guess kind of Intel felt they had a need to basically release
Yeah.
something and
And what?
try and compete.
Yeah. Yeah. And whilst on the topic of lukewarm, I think you the AMD the RX 6700 has
Yeah, well,
also got
let's
a
get to
very
that in a
lukewarm
minute,
reception.
right? Yeah, that's definitely lukewarm. But I'll tell you what isn't lukewarm.
Mm.
What isn't lukewarm is Intel's next CPU,
Mm-hmm.
Alder Lake. And
Mm-hmm.
now this one is actually, I think, really, if you're such a aim, not sorry, if you're such a Intel fanboy that
Uh-huh.
you won't buy any other kind of chip, right? Yeah. Plus, right, given the timelines for this chip coming out, we hopefully will be past the situation with supply and demand. Hopefully, pricing may reduce and stabilize a little bit.
I don't know. For us in Europe, whilst the Suez Canal is blocked up, I think
Yeah, well,
we might be waiting for a bit longer.
yeah, there is that also. But this might be the chip to get if you're looking for a new Intel CPU. This thing's finally on 10nm.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new kind of chipset, which means a new motherboard. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's the downside of it. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
a new socket. So obviously a new
Yeah.
motherboard. It supports DDR4
Yeah.
plus DDR5.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. And that's clocked up to 4,800 megahertz.
Mm-hmm.
PCI 4 N5.
Yep.
Wi-Fi 6E Thunderbolt 4, that is USB 4 compliant, and also really quick USB 3, 20 gigabits per second.
Mm.
Has a big little configuration, up to I think 16 cores, 8 by 8, which I mean 8 big, 8 small, or
Mm-hmm. Mm.
16 and 8, which is 16 core plus
Yeah.
8 single-threaded little cores.
Yeah.
Cores, golden coal for the big cores,
Mm-hmm.
and Gracemont for the small. which are derived from
Mhm.
Atom CPUs, if you remember those things. Yeah,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
20% increase in IPC compared to, again, I don't know what. Yeah. And they're claiming 2 times the multi-threaded performance. And what I think what's actually quite interesting, right, is it's got this thing called, well, what they put in their kind of notes were hardware guided scheduling.
Mhm.
What I understand, the way it works now, if you when you got these multi-core CPUs, right, what happens with the tasks and processes you're running is that the OS will direct which core it goes to.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
can imagine the kind of parameters it uses. It will be sometimes it'll be, you can imagine it'll be a mix between going round robin versus how busy a core is, if they can even measure that. But it's that sort of thing. But all the
Yeah.
cores are the same size.
Mhm.
With
Mhm.
this new CPU, because they've got a big little configuration, that's not necessarily true, right? You're not going to want
Mhm.
certain workloads to be running on those small cores. So this is why I think this hardware guided scheduling works. No,
Mhm.
I should say this is why this hardware guided scheduling exists,
Yeah.
to solve that problem, to make sure the right sized workloads are going to the right cores, rather than
Mm.
relying on the operating system.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's
Yeah.
big little, so not all the cores are the same, not equal.
Yeah. It's good that they've got that kind of config because I think there was one of those questions that was also raised on some of the AMD multi-core setup is that you get different, was it sort of reliability and quality of the actual core that's in there, and actually some of them then you can only boost clock to a certain level.
Yeah. That's true. It's the silicon. It's the again
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
our silicon lottery thing. I
Mm,
mean, even with some of the AMD software, they give you, I can't even remember what it's called now, but they give you software that allows you to overclock it. They'll
mm,
actually
mm.
tell you what your best core is.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
so they do all of that. But that's not quite like having a big little configuration,
Mm,
because
mm,
whilst you have your best kind of like big core and your worst,
mm.
it's still comparable.
Yep.
Yeah. Whereas the big little configuration in this scenario, it's not comparable at all. You
Mm,
know,
mm, mm.
one's based on a really low powered Atom core,
Yeah,
one isn't. Yeah,
yeah,
and one's multi-threaded, one isn't.
yeah.
So it's slightly, it's I don't know, when I say slightly, on paper it looks, it's slightly different.
Yeah, but it's like having two types of chips in the same chip, right? It's
Yeah,
just saying
yeah.
that you've got one that can handle some
Yeah.
basic simple workload,
Mm.
and doesn't matter how quickly you handle it as long as it's done in the most efficient way. And then it reduces, I guess, the amount of power that's being generated, and then the
Yeah.
cooling solution that you need
Yeah.
for it. So
Correct.
it's all
Correct.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah. But if your OS isn't basically aware,
Mm. Mm.
it could cause all sorts of havoc.
Yep.
You imagine running Cyberpunk on some of these little cores. I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be worse than it is. Like at
It
launch.
would
You know what
load
I
up
mean?
and
Like,
quickly panic.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I found that quite interesting. I think,
Mm.
certainly if you're an absolute Intel fanboy, Alder Lake seems to be the chip to get. Now,
Hmm.
I feel kind of a bit more, when I say a bit confident, I feel confident of the possibility
Yeah.
that Alder Lake could outperform Zen 3. I'm choosing my words very carefully, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
obviously, Intel have got to come out with a good product. That's
Yep.
the
Yep. Yep.
reality,
Yep.
right? And they haven't done in a while, right? So I just feel like, looking at the information, this CPU has a chance.
On paper, it makes a lot
On
of
paper.
sense.
On paper, it makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. Now, whether it does it or not, well, that's
Mm.
that's totally how kind of Intel. That's totally down to Intel executing.
Yeah.
But again, I will maintain, how short-lived is that going to be? Because Zen 4's coming out in the new year,
AMD's
and
right behind it again. It's just like they're literally just chasing them.
yeah. Well, they're not chasing them. They're the ones being chased now.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
the ones being chased now. So
AMD's got the lead for
yeah.
sure, right?
But are AMD stupid enough to stand still for even one basic generation? And
No.
for the sake of competition, I hope they're not, because I mean, if you look at this right now, I think AMD, they're showing signs of being a little bit, I wouldn't call it complacent, but
Mm.
they know they're at the top. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So some of these things they used to do to basically get themselves to the top, they're stopped.
Yeah.
I know price is basically a silly thing to bring up. Let's just say the world was at a place where MSRP meant something. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Right. If you look at it from that perspective, right? Doesn't feel like AMD mind being expensive, if you know what I mean. Right?
Yeah, but it's just like, well, it's how should I say it's basic supply and demand, right?
Of course, of
If
course.
there's not enough supply and demand's high, then guess what? Prices go up.
Of
That
course, of
is just
course.
fundamentally what happens. And
Yeah,
if
of
people
course.
keep buying at those high inflated prices anyway, why should they reduce it?
Yeah,
Why should they even sell it at MSRP?
yeah, of course. Of course.
And if I could buy it on MSRP, why can't I just sell that particular thing straight back onto the market at the inflated price? So, and this is exactly the what's happening.
But could we get to a point where Intel are so desperate to get back, right?
Hmm.
They become the actual company who offer the
The
best
more value
price,
proposition.
yeah, the more value and the more better price performance, because that would be a real interesting reversal of
Hmm.
roles, if you know what I mean.
Maybe it may be the thing that it needs to build the confidence back in, into that option, and
Yeah,
then maybe that is maybe that is a thing that they could go after.
yeah, definitely. But look, if you're into your Intel chips, your Intel CPUs, all the late's coming out close to the end of the year, that will be the CPU to, I think, consider.
Hmm.
Intel still have to prove it, they still have to execute on their plan. And until they do that, who knows what's going to be kind of produced. But on paper, that looks like the one
Yeah.
to get.
Yeah.
And hopefully that keeps pushing AMD to deliver. Yeah, because we want a good Zen 4, right? We don't want a shit Zen 4.
Yeah.
We don't want a tiny iteration or evolution Zen 4. We want something that's decent.
Yeah.
Because then Intel are going to have to double their efforts and chase even harder. And if they become a threat, AMD should be looking over their shoulder and saying, you know what? I can't take any bloody risks here. These guys are chasing hard,
Yeah.
We need to push. So we've talked about Intel
A
quite a
lot.
bit,
Yeah.
and yeah, I will say one thing before we move on from Intel, that their ZDG2
Hmm.
GPUs are maybe not gonna beat the high end
Yeah.
AMD and Nvidia GPUs, but they actually might be actually quite comparable
Hmm.
to middle or kind of lower end. And if they can do one thing, and the one thing is make sure the cards are available and price sensibly,
Hmm.
right? That's all they actually need to do. Parking aside kind of specs and performance, they could be in with a shot here.
Could be. I mean, if there's more people that want, if you argue if they're going after entry level market, then there's a possibility there.
Yeah, I mean, the one advantage Intel have had with their 14nm node
Hmm.
is that it's actually available.
Hmm.
There's a lot of supply versus, other companies.
Yep. 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 Yep.
If
Yep.
they can take those lessons learned for this graphics card and just assume it comes out like later in this year, we're probably going to still have some of these problems that we're experiencing right now.
Yep.
They could basically get a foot in the door in this GPU market, and again drive some competition up.
Yeah.
Because obviously now AMD, Nvidia, they're sparring one another. Intel enters the market again, does something a bit more disruptive. Who knows?
Yeah.
That can only be good for us.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the other lukewarm topic aside from Rocket Lake.
Yeah.
And that lukewarm topic was the latest AMD
Yeah.
6700 XT
Yeah.
graphics card. Al, what I understood about these graphics cards were that they were positioned to compete with the 3070.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were a little cheaper, and
Yeah.
I think they were cheaper by about MSRP anyway,
Yeah.
$20,
Yeah.
something along those lines. Not so an awful lot. The reality is, looking at the specs and the reviews and the benchmarks, is that they're actually comparable. They are comparable, but they lose in the performance and benchmark stakes most of the time.
Yeah.
If they exist to be a replacement for the 5700 XT, and I think you've got
Yeah.
one, haven't you?
That's the one I've got. Yeah. 5700 XT.
It's actually priced $80 or so more. I think the 57 was $400
Yeah.
or so.
Of which I got an actual MSRP back then.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Real MSRP. So in many ways, it's lukewarm in terms of value. It's kind of lukewarm in terms of performance.
Yeah, the problem is that I guess the tech reviewers that have gone through it says, well, the problem is we've done all these charts. It's okay, but 3070 still seems to be more value for your frames. So why would you get this thing? And then actually, is the MSRP even real? So it's just like, well,
Well, no, it isn't.
even if yeah, exactly. So even if the MSRP is real, it still didn't look favorable. It looked like 3070s were still better in terms of price per frame.
This is the one thing that I genuinely cannot understand with AMD. Yeah,
Mm,
that their price performance,
mm.
yeah, is just not good for some of the
Not the current generation,
yeah,
not the 6000
yeah,
generation. For some reason, it just isn't there.
yeah.
But
It's just
but
not
that's
good.
why I did the 5000, yeah, the 5700 XT and the 5700, and even the 5600 XT. Their value proposition was very, very good, and it just made a lot of people jumped in for that. I did. You just like it all added up perfectly because AMD's new chips were going really well, and then same with the graphics card. So I just jumped onto it, and then built a new machine from it.
But this is the stupid thing, yeah.
Mm,
With the CPUs, I can actually understand why the price performance would have dropped down because
mm,
AMD are now top of the heap, king of the hill, whatever it is.
yeah,
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 logically, they can do that. With the
yeah.
GPUs, to me, I mean, maybe I'm being unfair here, right?
Mm,
I did actually put out a video about this, but and where I was a little bit kinder,
mm, yeah,
yeah. But really, RDNA 2 is really more like a Zen Plus moment.
yeah. That's what it kind of feels
Yeah,
like. It's not really pushed us that much further forward,
yeah.
and then maybe the reviewers haven't taken well, maybe they have to be neutral around that, around the fact that they're not using an AMD chip to take advantage of the additional stuff, the additional advantages of a full AMD setup,
It wouldn't
and
get
things like
you
that.
as
Yeah.
it wouldn't get you that much, I think.
Mm,
Not
mm,
it
mm,
wouldn't be able to necessarily close the gap on some of the deficits we're seeing. But
mm.
this is yeah, I just can't understand it. Let's put it this way. RDNA 2 is it comparable for rasterization? Yes, but maybe at
Yeah.
4K it's not as good. In
Hmm.
some of the
Hmm.
lower resolutions, it's actually better.
Yeah.
Is it as good in terms of ray tracing? Nowhere near.
No.
Yeah, that's the reality.
Mm.
Nowhere near. Though we have seen the consoles do quite well for what they have.
Yeah.
And equally, you might say in the PC area, how many ray trace games do we have?
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Does it have a DLSS like alternative? No, clearly
Well,
not.
I think they do, but it's just nowhere near as good.
No, they don't even have it now. It's not coming out until they say it's this year, but no one knows.
Hmm.
And they say it's still being. There was an interview recently with I think it was Scott Herkerman, who's
Hmm.
the GPU guy at Nvidia. Sorry, at AMD. Yeah,
Hmm.
and he kind of said that it was going to come out this year, but he also said they were just looking at the different alternatives for implementing it.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a product that's basically going to come out anytime soon? We actually haven't decided how
No.
we're going to do it yet. Is
Hmm.
what came across.
Yeah. But we'll do
Yeah, we'll do it, but not quite yet.
it.
We're still deciding, right? So basically, hasn't got a comparable ray tracing performance, hasn't got basically a DLSS like alternative, which, to be honest, will be a factor soon, sooner or later. Yeah, will be a factor.
Yeah.
Has comparable rasterization performance, which is good, no doubt about that. So how in the world can they be pricing this thing as if it was a Zen 3 CPU, if you know what I mean?
I don't know. It's like the only other side of it is maybe they don't want to sell that many. Maybe there's I don't know what hidden reason there would be, but Um,
As much as it's kind of tempting to want to believe that, I can't believe any company would think like that.
yeah, I create I'm a company that creates and designs graphics cards. Yeah, maybe I just won't sell that many of them.
Yeah, I mean it's quite curious, and obviously I'm not wanting to spread some AMD hate here. Put some shade on what they're doing. But
Mm,
let's be honest. In other podcasts, we've given a lot of AMD love. You know what I mean? Like
true, true,
that's no
true,
doubt
true.
about it. But this seems kind of like objectively kind of stupid. You know what I
Yeah, I
mean?
mean, there's just nothing. There's just nothing there that just warrants you wanting to jump on it versus the Nvidia offering. It just doesn't make any sense.
That is the problem. That is the problem. When you look at it on paper, and even when you don't consider the situation with MSRP, you think,
Mm.
well, what's the value of me picking this over that? It's a difficult one.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
but that's the thing. Maybe they are going after not selling as many, and it's just basically they have they've committed to their roadmap, and to their shareholders they are showing they are committed to their roadmap. But the shareholders probably don't understand
Yeah, but that
the actual value
yeah,
proposition.
maybe, but
Yeah.
surely now is not the time to be impacting your mind share.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it is a roadmap and there's a journey ahead, and they want to have their Zen free moment, yeah, this is not the best way to get it. Like
No.
by
Yeah.
by by pushing out products that have a
Yeah.
lower kind of price to performance.
It could also be that the CPU side has just got them thinking in a very different mentality, which is why the GPUs cost that much as
And
well.
there lies the danger. Yeah,
Yep.
there lies a danger, and this is why we need Intel to be really pushing the boat out of the next CPUs, really pushing the boat out of these new
Yep.
GPUs. We need Nvidia to carry on doing what they're doing, because I tell you, those guys aren't about being second best. Yeah, no way. Yeah, and we need basically AMD to take notice of this.
Mm.
There's no doubt the way they've been executing, what they've been producing, is just basically stellar. It's been amazing. Yeah.
Mm.
But the moment they put they take their foot off that gas pedal is the moment like people like Intel are gonna basically catch up, and people like Nvidia are gonna keep on accelerating ahead. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing here. For me, that's quite interesting. I mean, I just hope we don't see a real shift in kind of AMD's mentality. Their mindset is it's too early for that change. I mean, you know,
Oh yeah.
turn
It
into
is.
Intel later when
Yeah.
the journey's over. Don't turn into Intel right now. You haven't earned the right to yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, I think that's the. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's much more to say about AMD. It was about their mid-range graphics cards, as much as I understood it.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know Zen 4's coming. There might be a Zen 3 refresh, to combat kind of all late by the end of the year. I don't imagine that release will be seismic.
Yeah.
But let's talk briefly about Nvidia. And
Mm.
really, the one thing that I want to discuss about Nvidia is the whole crypto mining thing again. Yeah, I had to bring this up. I had to bring this up because
Yeah.
if I remember right, we talked about this last podcast.
Yeah. I think my all my predictions have come true
Yeah, I
on it.
know,
But yeah, keep going.
which is kind of disappointing, really, right? And in a way, right,
Mm.
one of my I don't even want to call it predictions, but one thing that I kind of assumed, obviously, has evaporated, gone up in a puff of smoke. The other thing
Mm.
has absolutely come true, but that wasn't about
Mm.
technology.
No.
That was not about technology. So as people will know, right, the 3060 graphics cards have already been hacked by miners,
Yeah.
and I'm using the word hack very loosely here because it seemed that all that they needed to do was flash the video BIOS with a developer BIOS. It was like something that my 2-year-old daughter could have done given enough training right now.
but that's what as soon as one or two of them have cracked it and then shared it, everyone else can replicate it and
Yeah,
do it.
but Al, the BIOS wasn't a special BIOS.
Yeah, but that was the whole problem. If they made it software based,
BIOS was an Nvidia BIOS. This is the part that, if I understand this right, that's the part that blows my mind. So let me understand it. Okay, Nvidia, let me understand this. All right, you put out some, news and some graphics cards that you said you were throttling, and not only did you say you were throttling this, but you said it was going to be very difficult for somebody to work around this. Yeah,
it was unhackable. I think
unhackable.
was the.
It was absolutely unhackable. And then maybe
Yes.
Nvidia, you didn't say this, but you kind of let it you kind of let people say about it. Oh, somebody's kind of said that you were going to save PC gamers. Yeah, you kind of said that, all right. You didn't necessarily explicitly say that, but you allowed the community to say that for you. So, thinking about this, you're right. It was unhackable, and the reason it was unhackable is all that you needed to do was just flash the BIOS with an existing kind of BIOS. You didn't need to hack it. So, so in many ways, it was unhackable because you didn't even need to
It
do
was
that.
easier than.
It was unhackable because you didn't even need to do it. So now we're in this situation. Not only have Nvidia released these crypto mining processes, right, for the miners, but they've actually also released a bunch of, 3060 graphics cards, which are seemingly for the miners also.
Yeah.
So you don't even have two. They don't even have two segments here. They have just one big segment. Yeah, it's just that
Yeah.
one you have to flash the BIOS, and the other one you don't.
It probably depends on the. Again, I don't know. I've not seen what the MSRPs are on the CMP kind of processes, but it depends on the cost really. Ultimately, this is the whole point. The whole point of why it's so popular at the moment is that it has become cost efficient to do Ethereum mining, and that's why everyone's going after it, because they're sensing this kind of loop of free money essentially, and that's
Yeah.
why they're doing it.
Well, I mean, I think I did kind of read one article on the MSRP, and I think it was this probably was the lowest end CMP. It was
Mm.
the 30HX,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
and the actual gaming equivalent that was compared to, it ended up as being $200 to $300 more.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
okay. But right now, obviously, that's not a factor.
Yeah.
The miners, you can have it all. You have no limits.
Yeah,
If you can
yeah,
get hold of the cards and you're willing to spend the money, you can have it all.
yeah.
And this whole unhackable thing, to a degree, it's accurate because you don't need to hack anything. You can just go in there, you can basically kind of flash the BIOS, and you're good to go.
Yeah, wasn't there also another, I think I read an article somewhere that someone was also able to do something with a video. I think they could just add on to the video output that also broke it
Yeah.
as well.
Yep. Yep. I heard that as well. So really, you got more than one route to take. Whatever works for you, miners. Whatever works for you. In fact, I don't know why you just don't basically hire a massive fleet of trucks, put your graphics cards in the back of them, get the addresses for all the miners, and just ship them to them. Why bother? Why bother with this masquerade? Saying all of this.
Yep, yep.
I think that's the part that I really was just kind of quite shocked about the ease by which this was circumvented. I just thought you never ever think anything's bulletproof. Yeah, you never ever
Yeah.
think that.
Well, it's the classic Titanic thing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Unsinkable.
of course. But equally, you don't expect your Kevlar vest to have the tensile strength of paper. Do you know what I mean? Not even cardboard, paper. That's the part that I kind of thought to myself, wow, this is actually this is amazing. And I
Uh,
think, Al, before I rant anymore and get myself permanently in Nvidia's kind of like shitbox, just in case anybody's listening to this, I think it's time to move on to the next topic.
yeah, cool.